Welcome to the Convention Creators Podcast, a show where we dive into the creative shenanigans of conventions for small businesses and basically everything in between.
I am PB, the proud business bear. I've been away for the last episode, traveling for work, but I am back. And I've missed this.
And it's good to have you back, PB. But while you've been off on your grand adventures, I have been holding down the fort with interviews and solo missions. So today, we're catching up on everything we've been up to, from my solo experience at Animangapop to the end of our Kickstarter, and your upcoming trip to PowerCon.
Yes, that's right. We've got a lot to cover, so let's just dive in. Let's go.
Go. Welcome back. Actually, this is quite exciting. This is episode 10.
It is episode 10.
10.
Crazy.
The podcast has entered double digits. I'm so happy.
Crazy.
This is a big deal. Oh my goodness. This has been a crazy month, a crazy time. Like we said in the intro, you've been away, but you're back. We have so much to discuss. And we're reunited and it feels so good. My podcast co-host back by my side, so I'm very happy. And we have been busy.
Just in time for me to leave again. Basically. I'm up in, bye, off to another con. That is literally my life. Even in my social circle, I'd be around for like 3 months of winter and then con season starts. And I'm like, I'm back for like 2 days, bye. That's it.
But I guess it's a good opportunity before you're off on more adventures that we sort of cover the things that we've missed since we were last on an episode together, which was admittedly a fortnight ago. But it's amazing how much has happened in 2 weeks for us.
In our life, we are just going through things like so quickly. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It is super crazy. I guess a good place to start would be, while I've been just looking after the podcast all on my own, I went to Animangapop all by myself. I was so brave.
You did. You did really well. I was so impressed by everything you reported back, everything you filmed, everything you posted on our social media. It genuinely made me feel like I was there. I've seen what there was to see. Definitely the highlights of when I come back from con, what I would remember, and that's the kind of video you produced, and I'm really, really proud of it. Very well done.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how the whole day went. I'm happy with the content that you guys got to watch. I think it's some really good stuff, and the feedback would suggest that you are in general agreement as well, so I am very grateful.
Yes.
Even one of our best performing videos. So thank you to everyone who's watched our Animangapop video on the YouTube.
It's amazing. We broke our first 1,000 views on that video, which admittedly I haven't checked again to see if the number went up a little bit more. We got to 500, excite. We got to 750, more excite. Will it get to 1,000? Yes. And then we forgot about it. Because ADHD and everything.
Yeah.
We have
things are happening.
More things to think about. But before we just skip ahead, tell me about it. Tell me, how did it feel to, firstly, before even narrowing down on Animangapop, how did it feel for you to be going to a non-Sonic Con on your own? Like, what was it like?
It was so interesting purely because, like you said, most of my conventions... basically all of my convention experience before this lovely podcast is Sonic ones, all Sonic related. And like you said, because this one was on my own, I suddenly realized it's a whole world of stuff that I know nothing about. Like, it was quite interesting in the sense that, like, there are things happening like animes, video games, and just other sort of like fandom things that have like really focused audiences I'm just not part of. So it was very eye-opening because I guess because I was on my own as well, I got to really have a proper look into those areas. So a little bit like deer in the headlights, but actually really rewarding in the long term too. So it was good. It was really good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. have you heard about Animangapop before you decided to take it on? Did you have any prior knowledge of what to expect? What was... Give me an overview of that.
Yeah, so I have heard of Animangapop. I've heard of it, but I will be very honest, that is the extent of my knowledge. And it's probably because I don't know these conventions very well. It's still a whole world I'm sort of learning about. So it was kind of like, okay, this sort of event we were invited to. Again, very grateful for the invite. Thank you so much to the organisers for inviting us along. It's interesting. It's one of those conventions that's all over the country.
Yeah.
But like they're like many slightly smaller, like hotel conventions is how I would categorize them.
Yeah.
So even though they're everywhere, they're all like generally a lower head count, that sort of stuff. So the fact that apparently it's been happening in Bristol, my hometown, for a while was news to me.
I mean, that in itself maybe says that it might need a bit more visibility still. But that said, I live not far from London, and every other week I hear about some form of event that I absolutely have no idea about.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's not known or busy or filled with people. It's just a matter of finding the right information at the right time.
100%. A big takeaway I had from this was, again, I said, I sort of heard this event, but don't really know anything about it. Being there, speaking to people, there are people who not only come to this one like every year, they love Animangapop, they go to everyone, but they actually travel around the country to go to each one. They love
that's
it.
Interesting.
They love it. So like they're like, oh yeah, I was just at the Plymouth one. I'm now going to the London one. Like I don't actually live in Bristol. I'm staying at the hotel here. Specifically, I've come to Bristol to come to the Bristol event. So there are people who there is, even though I didn't know much about it, there's definitely like a really hardcore audience who love these events.
Okay, so it's good. I mean, it goes without saying then that the vibe must be good. But I do have a question about that. Now that you have done MegaCon London in January and Animangapop, from the title, it kind of says that it's probably more anime leaning. Just aside from the scale of the event, obviously one is much larger than the other. What was the difference in vibe? What did you see that was different? How would you compare the two? Were they similar, just smaller scale? Was Animangapop actually more anime leaning? Well, let me know your opinion.
Yeah, so I definitely think that in theory, the base principles are very similar. There is a traders area. There is an area you can play video games. There is a main stage to do panels and shows. Like, there are cosplay contests. The general concepts are very similar. So in theory, you think, it's just the same, but it's just a different scale. But actually, what I found interesting was, because it's a smaller event, but also an event that has a more diehard audience, because these events are smaller, and clearly there's an Animangapop community that they all know each other. So there was a much different feeling, just because you could tell that everyone who was attending, they were all friends, they getting along, like they would all go to different things together. And whereas like a larger event, I think like if you're going as a cosplayer and you want to do the cosplay stuff, you might be in that area throughout MegaCon, because that will be a huge time suck. Or if you're going there to meet someone and get an autograph, that might be the main thing you do when you go to that event. With these events, I saw people do everything, because it's a smaller scale, which means that the queues aren't as long. There's more time to do stuff. So you would see the same person who would one moment be playing a video game in one room would then off be meeting the cosplayer guests and buying photos, and then the next minute be off playing Beyblade. Like they were just like, well, I'm here. I'm going to try everything. So that was
the Beyblade.
Beyblades, something I still need to master.
Or know about in general.
Yeah, it was fun. Spinny things. It's great.
Spinny. La la la.
Now, they are just twatting each other. Lots of twatting going on. All the twatting. Just undermined the whole community there, I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
No, I thought it was really interesting just how much more you could do at Animangapop. I was able to see almost everything that was there to offer, and I didn't feel like I was missing out. It felt like a very varied experience, which I kind of enjoyed, because these larger events, that's harder to do. I think it's physically impossible to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I have had friends who waited for a very long time in queues to do one thing or another, or missed out on a few things with larger events because of the volume of people. So I do think that smaller events allow for being able to try different things. Obviously, because of the budget of smaller events, you don't necessarily have a lot of different things to try. But it's nice to know that this is offered at Animangapop. I was pleasantly impressed by what you showed us, and I would say if I were closer to the event, geographically, that is, I would probably give it a try to trade at, based on the video that you showed. Before that, I had no real context beyond the fact that they work with or are in collaboration with or are owned by showmasters who do LFCC, London Film and Comic Con, as well as a variety of other events around the country. They are very big. But beyond that, I didn't really have much context. So it was nice to actually see it through what you relayed and be like, I think I probably would.
Yeah, I actually would recommend it to anyone who wants to go to a con and just have it's just a chill day and a fun day.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely recommend it. It was definitely, especially if because there are people out there who listen who love conventions, but that there is this overstimulus, overwhelm sort of anxiety sometimes thing about the scale and how busy they can be. I sometimes think actually these sort of scale conventions are perfect for you, because they can be done at a much gentler pace. And actually, I will give credit to Animangapop. They had a lot of things set up specifically for people who do struggle with being overstimulated by stuff. So the louder stuff that was happening, they had them like an alternative way of enjoying that was a bit more a relaxed atmosphere. So I will give props to them for doing that.
That's very good. Do you have an example in mind?
So a good one is, again, this event was so much Miku stuff because Vocafest were there. So they had the live Vocaloid performance in the main stage room, and never seen one of these in person before. I have watched them on YouTube. I have expressed opinions on them before, but I was in this room and I didn't know what I was expecting, and I didn't realize how there was lights, smoke machine, a lot going on in that room, and very loud music, very noisy. And I can appreciate, especially at an event of this scale, that even though it was a big production, it was in a slightly smaller space. You might be very congested and a bit overwhelmed. So they had the second stage area where it was being live streamed to. So you could go watch it and enjoy it, but not have to be surrounded by literally all this stimulating stuff and flashing things happening around you. And I saw people who were just loving watching it and clearly just were like, but I don't want to be in that. So I appreciate that they could still enjoy it
very nice,
and without feeling like, oh, I can't watch it because it's going to be too much for me. They still got to enjoy it. I think that's really good. Really, really good.
That is very good. Very insightful and very thoughtful from the staff at Animangapop to cater for people who get overstimulated by loud noises, lots of people, so on and so forth. I actually have a funny little story about my experience of seeing one of these Miku performances. Oh, really? It was my first year of RakuCon, and because it was the first year of the event, there was quite a fair bit of footfall. I was very surprised the first year of RakuCon how much money I made over that weekend. But there, like you said, because it's a smaller event, there are targeted events happening throughout the weekend where it would attract all the people, and there were barely people walking around. So it allowed for us traders to go and have a look at these things as well, which was lovely. And my friend Ben and I, we wanted to see the Miku show. He was curious, but he was like, I don't know if I'll go. I'm like, oh, come on, let's go. So we went. And we're in this room at the Pendulum looking at this show, and I am there looking like Steven Universe with big eyes, sparkles, because wow, this is happening. This is so cute. This is such a vibe. And people are like, they're like,
yeah,
enjoying
yes,
giving their best, living their best life, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly Ben just leans here and he's like, Miku's dancing upside down on the ceiling. And I just look up and see Miku upside down, legs towards us. And I just burst out laughing mid-song. It's like, oh my god, Miku's upside down on the ceiling. And a small sea of people just turned around to me and were like, shh, just get out.
Yeah.
And I just walked away. I was cry laughing. I couldn't stay in the room. I would have just been a disruption, so I walked away. But I will never forget that. It was hilarious. Miku upside down on the ceiling. So when I saw your clip, Miku was still upside down.
Upside down, that's in the ceiling.
She was, physics seems to work everywhere the same.
See, she's a hard-working artist, She will perform twice for you, literally dancing on the ceiling as the song goes.
Oh, what a feeling when we're dancing on the ceiling.
Like I said, you went there without me, without your guide, without your mentor in the convention sector, right? How did it feel like to be there as an attendee versus being there as a assistant exhibitor, where you have the pass to go in early and not have to queue, not have to go in, to be limited with certain times? What was that like?
It was interesting in the sense that, yes, so like MegaCon, for example, we were officially there as exhibitors and stuff, so it was a very different energy. This one was really good though, because I quite enjoyed that as I was there on a press pass, but there was actually no direction in terms of like, we need this, this, and this. It was just like, just turn up and have a good time.
Yeah, I believe that is like the norm for normal, anyone with a grade.
So it's just like basically show up, and which I did, and it was really interesting because I guess because there was no expectation of you need to be here at this time or do that thing. I could just explore everything at my own pace. And there was something nice about the fact that I did intend to go there to do it as coverage. I had very much had an intention of, this is what I want to film, this is what I want to cover, this is what I speak about. But it was kind of nice to do that from a perspective of, I'm just learning stuff on my own, finding stuff out.
Very well done. In fact, I want to touch base with something that you mentioned. And this might be a little bit of a personal beef, but it is still important to mention. You said that you were there on a creator pass. However,
yes,
there was no itinerary of what you're expected to do. There was no real guideline about that. And perhaps that is, in some cases, a negative rather than a positive, but I will explain myself why. Just like we talked about on the SonicCon episode about volunteering, people ask to be volunteers at events. It is a lovely thing, having that extra help. Organizers rely on it. However, it's the same thing with creator passes. It's the same thing with performers passes. They are a way that you are somehow helping the event, either by blogging about it, vlogging about it, posting about it, performing at it, or actually helping. You were giving a free pass to go in. You didn't pay to go into the event. And
Correct.
in return, the event is expecting this back from you. Now,
Yeah.
I have had several conversations with different organizers where that just doesn't happen. I mean, if a performer decides to not perform, I guess it is a little bit more visible, right?
Yeah.
When a volunteer doesn't uphold the task required, it is a hindrance for the event. But as con goers, as we only see the how to say, the lacking element from the convention side rather than the volunteer. And when a creator is there and then doesn't do the vlogging, doesn't do the posting, they kind of get away with it. You know what I mean? Like
They do.
There's no slap on the wrist, there's no nothing. They manage to get a free weekend at an event, especially at something like MCM. And then if they don't properly post about it, I don't know. There is a lot of people who get these passes, and because there is no actual guideline of, we would like you to do this, this, and this, as a thank you or as a return for getting a free pass at this event. And they, I don't know, kind of abuse the system, maybe? Do you have any thoughts about it?
I do, because I feel like I have an agreement with a lot of what you said, purely because I am aware of a lot of people who usually have the Creator Pass system, and I think it's a failure on both ends to a degree, in the sense that, one, you have these people who will take the Creator Pass. They might post like one story that they're there, and that'll be it. Or they might do some photos there and post it like a week later. And the engagement isn't there because people aren't looking for it anymore. And I feel like it does a disservice to the people who invited you. I also think there's a failure sometimes on the convention end, because they don't actually set an expectation out. So they don't actually say, we would like this. And I don't think conventions should be saying, oh, to earn this, you need to do a post that gets this much engagement, because I think I don't like when people start trying to manage things by metrics that are really hard to predict, because algorithms are wild. But I don't think it's unfair to be like, have some negotiation, because I think if you just give out a pass, you're basically relying purely that just the name of the person being there will sell tickets. That's the pure engagement. That's
which
all
it
that
doesn't.
is.
It doesn't.
Maybe people in the comments would disagree, in which case I would love you to sound off below. But for me personally, if there's a creator I really love, and that it turns out they're going at an event, if I was already going, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. That's really nice. If I wasn't buying a ticket and I saw them, I don't think there'd be an influencer or a creator that would sway me to buy a ticket if I wasn't already planning to go.
The other side of it is that those people are usually the ones that do the panels and so on. And that is why they are getting a creator pass, because they are contributing to the event in one way or another
doing
by
something.
doing panels. Exactly.
They're part of the actual.
Yes, we're not talking about those people. That's not who we're referring to.
They're like actually doing event stuff, is how I like to think of it in my head. When people are offered these creator pass or these equivalents of at smaller events, Animangapop is a very good example. It does bother me when people accept those and then do not do anything to really help promote that event, because when a small convention is doing it, they're really it is a big deal for them, because they're really reaching out to you to spread the word, to lift the profile of the event. They don't have the same budgets. They definitely don't have MCM type budgets. Like, they're putting everything together. They need to these things to sell, to work. So if you take advantage of those events, it does irk me a bit, I have to say. I can't pretend it doesn't irk me a bit.
I think that is where I'm coming from, because obviously for any small hotel convention, there is a much smaller people capacity. Let's say that an event only has 300 people or 400 people allowed in the rooms that have been booked for the event. If 150 of them are organizers and traders, that's already down to 350. If 50 of them then are creators or what have you, that is 50 tickets that the event is not getting their money for. And they're gambling on that as marketing. So if there is no return from those 50 tickets in terms of improving the event, then you kind of took someone's place that probably could have done better or done more.
100%. I think the other thing as well is, for a lot of these smaller events, they don't have a full team because there is not the money for it.
Exactly.
And that means that a lot of these small events don't have a social media team. They don't have a massive social media presence because of it. So actually, they need the social media coverage from the people who they've invited, who supposedly know what they're doing because that's their bread and butter. They need that coverage way more, because the reality is, for a lot of them, they just physically don't have the capacity to do it themselves. They
exactly
can't.
That.
They don't. And therefore, if they're inviting you, they're basically saying, like, can you do this bit that we can't do? Can you lift our profile to a wider audience?
Exactly.
We don't have to do that. And if you don't do that, and again, I will say, what we do, like, I'm not saying everyone needs to go start interviewing traders and, like, just doing, like,
please don't.
Really,
don't run us out of business. We're just starting.
Yeah, we've only just started. But, like, you've got to do something. You've got to do something.
And there are many examples out there of ways that TikTokers, Instagrammers that do these videos so well. The only reason why I bring it up is, since we started doing the convention creatives, I have had two completely different conversations about the same topics, and it is mostly about these creator passes being sent out to people, and the return on them is either nothing, or they get stuff way too late for it to even get any traction or make any sense, or it just feels like wasted potential. However, this is not the case. You did really well. I am immensely proud. You surprised me. I will admit, I was surprised. And we had a couple of people who organize events who reached out and congratulated you on how you dealt with that as well. And I'm very proud. And I feel that you got even more good news from your end about Animangapop.
Yeah, so it was, like, again, the feedback's been really good. And my friend, who is running the Bristol version of Animangapop, as well as other events in the area, she personally reached out to me after the event, after we'd done all our coverage, and showed me a message from one of the higher ups in the line in terms of who looks over the wider events. And they basically, the feedback was that they were really happy with the coverage we'd done. It's very clear that they've not had coverage done like that before for the Animangapop events in this way. So much so that they basically said, if there's any events in the future we want to attend, just reach out. And we can, and they'd be more than happy for us to do the same again at any of the other events. And
two thumbs up.
Yes, it made me so happy, because it's recognition of what we're doing, and I think that's what I want. One of the things I want this podcast to be is to show people what all these different kinds of events are. So if the event organizer's like, oh, actually, this is actually a proper look at what we do, then I'm very happy that they see that in us. It's awesome. So good.
You did very well. I'm very proud. Well done. All right. So, that aside, what kind of artists and cosplayers did you see there? Did anyone particularly stand out? Did anyone recognize you? Did anyone recognize the wonderful top that you were wearing, or the amazing hat? Anything? Tell me.
Just anything. Like, was it the cubby stuff you were wearing? So it was interesting for two reasons. One, I met so many awesome cosplayers. I love the fact they were all so patient with me and not knowing anything they were dressed up as, even though they had the most intricately detailed costumes. I am just a novice when it comes to this stuff, so they were very grateful, very kind to me. But one of the cosplayers who was invited as a guest and did an amazing job, and she also judged the cosplay contest as well, was Mossy Fox Cosplay. She was a delight. She was so kind and patient, and she was willing for me to sit down at her table. I just took someone just sat up and let me sit in their chair. It was very, very kind, and was just so nice to talk to. She will be at another MegaCon that we'll be attending this month, and
and if she sees us there, please take this to know that you are welcome to come and rest at our table if you need to. Come and chill out, hang out, say hello. Because I do recognize them from previous events. So
yes,
it was fantastic to see them there.
It was, so I can't wait to see her again. She was really, really lovely. I think what was interesting was, in terms of the artists, a lot of the artists didn't recognize the podcast yet. We're getting there, but they did recognize the artwork I was wearing, because I was wearing. I actually have it off camera with me. I was wearing my little beanie, and I was also wearing the Cubby T-shirt, which is obviously an icon in the Gilles Bone illustrations world. And people recognize them both. People recognize the beanie. A lot of people recognize the bear, and it was like, oh, I own your stuff. And it's like, your stuff. It's like, oh, I didn't draw this. My good friend Jill, who's the co-host of this podcast, did. Would you like to do an interview? And they were like, oh, yes, of course.
Yes, of course, because we're two gay men with a beard who wear plaid. Obviously the same person.
We are
we are literally the same person.
We like to feign how different we are, yet our attire is not helping our case today.
At all. Literally at all.
But so people were really kind. I found it really interesting that the artists I generally spoke to were all very much artist babies. And I say that in the most affectionate way possible, because so many of them were just like, I started last month. Like, this is my first few cons.
Last month.
Animangapop for some was like the biggest con they had done yet. They had done a few like markets and Christmas things and stuff. This was like their first like con. So it actually makes me really excited, because it made me realize in that moment, because everyone at MegaCon I spoke to generally had been quite established or been doing this gig for a while. But everyone I spoke to this convention was like, oh, through the podcast, I'm going to see your journey and your growth. And as you get more established and grow your audience and get better at this, like...
Bless you, Henry.
Dog just sneezing off camera. I'm so excited to see their journey as they grow. And I realized, like, actually, there could be a case of, like, we're doing an event, like, in a year's time or something, or down the line, and we can compare, or like, them their first events to, like, where they are now, and who knows where they could be. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see all the little artist babies all be grown up. It's very exciting.
Yes, there is one or two artists that you've interviewed that I am very much looking forward to see where they are, even 5 months down the line, or at the end of the year. It's going to be amazing to watch them flourish, especially... you had a personal favorite as...
Yes.
Not to pick favorite children, but...
Not to pick favourites. I never pick favourites. I did have two, but I guess I might mention them both. But just because I love them so much. But the first one that comes to mind is Patsy Peach. And she is, again... Loved her layout, loved everything about it. I feel like she's been listening to this podcast and she's taken some lessons. I'm sure she is just naturally very good at what she does. But it was just so well done. And as soon as I started speaking to her, she was so on board, so lovely to chat to, and just so enthusiastic about her work and the things she was doing. And it was a clear translation of, these are the things I've always loved in my life, and therefore I have made these products, because these are the things I would want. Like, one of the things she was most proud of was this DM book she'd made for
it's the
D&D.
bear one.
And she was like, well, I made this because this is what I would want. And I was like, that is fantastic. So I'm so excited to see what she gets. I also
she had lovely energy. Absolutely
lovely energy.
Loved her on camera. Yeah.
And another person I really loved, which a person I'm looking forward to following their journey, is Magical Meow, because I'm not a big badge button person, but I would have bought every single badge button, every single one. I was
very
obsessed.
nice. Yeah.
They were just, again, you can tell when there's an artist who are new on the scene, but they're already very much up for collaborating and supporting each other, and they'll go around to the other tables and see how people are doing. And I'm like, with that energy, you're going to do well. I can't wait
Yeah.
to see how that grows, for sure.
Well done. Well done
Very,
to them
very
all.
good. Yes.
Hurrah.
Very good.
Hurrah.
Good.
Hurrah. Yes, yes. I very much look forward to you seeing them again down the line, because I remember my first convention back in 2019 with Illustrator Jake and with Foxleap and with all the people who now are some of my closest friends. And that is the context where I would see them, at cons. So I am happy to see that you are starting to build these connections as well and seeing these people. And it's just so exciting. It's so nice building your little own con friend group.
It's going to be good. I'm very excited. It's made me very excited to see what we do next, because we will be doing a lot more coverage, for sure.
Nice. Yes. Talking about more coverage, I think it's time to have a little break and then talk about the next coverage we will be doing, which is PowerCon.
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do that. Break time. Bye.
And we're back. We've had a break. Now, Animangapop. That's happened now. We loved it. We can't wait to do more. But now we have to look to the future, the very immediate future. And the next one for us, specifically, is PowerCon. My goodness.
Yes. I leave for PowerCon literally less than 48 hours after the recording of this. When this is airing, I will be in Glasgow at the SSE, setting up for a weekend at the Fan Frontiers new event. For people who don't know, PowerCon is actually a rebrand of a previous Glasgow convention, which is Acme. Now, there is a lot of information out there about the rebrand, why it happened, how it happened, but let's not discuss that just yet. PowerCon, I'm going to be there with my friend Rob, Printing Like Rabbits, and my friend Toranako Stephen with his Glass Ghouls, and I am going to be bringing Sonic and Shadow, which are now spray painted, and their first base colors are laid out. They're not going to be like fully done just yet. We're leaving that for MegaCon later in the month, but I will be a Sonic statue display stand with a lot of Sonic t-shirts and a lot of Sonic sweaters, while Printing Like Rabbits will be officially designated a Has-Been Hotel prop stand, because he will be having Alastor there. He has this amazing backdrop that he got of, I think, loot. Actually, no, it's Vaggy. It's this
you're right.
amazing Vaggy shadow silhouette for people to take photos of, as if an angel just caught them in an alleyway, which is amazing. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff happening this weekend, and I'm frantically packing while mid-podcast recording.
It is crazy to me. And again, I went to Animangapop as with the podcast all by myself. I will not be attending PowerCon, and it breaks my heart because
very sad.
I mean, I will be missing the debut of a painted Sonic statue, which is very, very sad for me. I am going to be missing the fact that I know you said one of the people we're going with, Glass Ghouls. They have some Sonic stuff around the corner as well.
Yes.
So
Sonic and Has-Been stuff. The first time that they're doing anything fandom. Crazy.
And so, yeah, I'm very gutted that I won't be there. It's interesting because you touched on, like, obviously it's like a new event, but also like sort of like the spiritual successor to Acme.
Mm-hmm.
What are the expectations for? Are there any expectations for an event that's technically new, but not? Like, is there like a feeling of like, do you think, oh, it's going to be like it has been in previous years? Is this a feeling of like, well, Are people going to know it's the successor? So what's attendance going to be like? Is there a lot of unknowns that are sort of make it an interesting experience?
So there are actually plenty of unknowns with this upcoming event. Yes, it is the first time that PowerCon is running. Technically, though, I think the majority of the audience is going to be split between two people. Either people who used to go to Acme at that particular weekend of the year, and they don't know any better. They just see a new title. The layout is the same. So many things are similar to how Acme were run. Same hall, same location, as far as I can tell, because obviously I don't read that exhibitor manual until like 10 minutes before we actually get
as you're walking in.
As I'm walking in. But from what I could see, a lot of it is being run in the same way. And I don't think that the average Joe convention goer is going to really notice much difference aside from the name.
So yeah, because it is technically a new event. So there are new potentials, new possibilities. And I guess this is the first time that you are going to this event in Glasgow with Rob. Obviously, you've done some events together already, but this is your first time all the way up there. You're also, for the first time in the history of the podcast, anyway, exhibiting along with and working with our wonderful friend Glasgow's as well, which we mentioned before.
Yeah,
I think it's a great thing, and I love their work. But you've known them far longer than I have. So for our audience, maybe just give a bit of an understanding of their work, how they got into this, and why people should be excited about checking out their stuff at this event.
Perfect. Of course. So Glasgow's is run by my dear friend Stephen, and I asked if they wanted to be my table helpers, and they were exceptional. We had the most laughs. Fantastic. But when Pick a Plushie last year decided to start pulling back from doing all the events that I was doing, I had some bookings which were left over with multiple spaces that I didn't quite know what to do with. Or in the case of Glasgow, I didn't know how to get my stuff from here, close to London, to Glasgow enough to fill a table. 2 tables. So, Toranako Stephen was posting on our Discord some art things that he has been doing in his spare time. They were these little coffee-infused plaster ghosts that he was then painting and decorating, and just made like a handful of them to give out as gifts, as experiments, just to pass time, to have something like therapeutic to... do when they're not working, streaming, or gaming. And I said, listen, would you be interested in selling 1 or 2 of those ghosts at the table? Because you are going to be there as my helper. You might as well use a small portion of the table to display your ghosts. And yeah, we'll see where that goes, right? This was the end of January. This conversation happened towards the end of January of last year. Acme last year happened on the first weekend of March. So there was a total of about 35 days between the 2 points. And Stephen had a full-on setup with grass on the table and these countless ghosts with what looked like a open treasure chest with ghosts inside. He had gacha machines and badge buttons and mini stickers and lucky dips, and I'm like, okay, we are going to put a little bit more love into this with social media, introducing him to more artists and so on and so forth. And he had a blast. He even has a uniform. In a month, he had a uniform with a little apron and the little vest, and he looks so cute. And I absolutely loved it. He put so much care and effort. And he said, well, you're giving me this opportunity. I want to make my best with it. And long story short, he had a great time. He started doing a couple of markets here and there. I asked him to share tables with me at RakuCon last year as well. And then at the end of RakuCon, we decided that I'm going to do my big trip to Glasgow for a couple of weeks and then Manchester, which is where we ended up meeting during that trip. I spent a lot of time with Stephen during those 2 weeks. We did 2 conventions. We did a second Acme in the air, and we also did HorrorCon, where he did really well. And we left it where when I eventually move further up north, we are going to try and do a lot more events together, because Stephen just has that kind of energy that helps me be in a calm, be a little bit more less frazzled, I guess. So the synergy is really good. And also he works alongside what I am doing. So for example, with this event at PowerCon, because my table is mostly going to be featuring Sonic and Has Been Hotel in collaboration with Printing Like Rabbits, they have designed these series of Sonic and Has Been Hotel ghosts, which they will be selling as stickers. They look so good. I am so impressed. Again, that came out of a conversation on like a Wednesday, and by Sunday they had like these characters sketched. So impressed. And so happy that they're going to be there. It's one of those friendships where we live on opposite sides of the country, in 2 different countries, one might say, and we don't see each other enough. So I'm just very much looking forward to spending time with them.
It sounds good. Again, gutted I can't go, but it sounds like it's going to be an awesome time. Is there anything at your table specifically that you're quite excited about, people who haven't had the opportunity to see it yet? Because I guess there's a few things that debuted at MegaCon that this will be an opportunity for people up north to have a look at as well.
Yes, I am going to have all the sweatshirts that we did at MegaCon that sold quite well, and because of the weather in Glasgow, sweatshirts tend to sell quite a lot as well. So I'm very happy to be bringing those. I am going to have all my Sonic t-shirts back, which again did very well at MegaCon. And because we are hosting Sonic and Shadow at the table, I am hoping that that brings the right kind of audience to enjoy those. I will be bringing less things than I did at MegaCon, because obviously MegaCon I had a booth, where this time I have a little bit more limited space, but I am going to make the best of it. What is debuting this time around is the t-shirt version of our Alistor Nun Sinner design. I only have that in limited quantities, so it is going to be a first come first serve basis. However, the sweatshirt that we took for at MegaCon, it was a test design. I wasn't sure about it, and if anyone sees this and sees this design, and they can let me know what they think about it in the comments as well, because I would appreciate it.
It sounds good. I'm excited for everyone who gets to see that stuff. And again, I'll just be here all alone. It's fine.
It is a shame. I will say that out of all the cities that we do events at, the ones that we end up having more of a social is generally either the Glasgow events or the Manchester events. Mostly because the Manchester conventions are obviously next to the gay village area, and we make the most of that. But Glasgow, we just know the town so well, and some of my closest friends live there. So we get to really have an all-out weekend. And I am very much looking forward to de-stressing after the last 2 months of chaos, and just have a great time at this Glasgow event this weekend. PowerCon, bring it.
So while you make your plans to get to PowerCon and spend any money you have with our wonderful artist friends, because, you know, support small businesses, we're going to take a quick break and come back about another piece of small business we've been doing, our Kickstarter. Can't wait.
Yay!
Can't wait.
It's over, yay. Go.
And we are back, and we're here to talk about a subject you will have heard a lot from us in the last month, which is a Kickstarter. The Kickstarter has finally concluded.
It is done.
It's finally done. It is done. And it was successfully funded.
It was. I am very happy with that fact. I will say that if we were to do an expectations versus reality type thing, I would have a lot to say about it. But I am pleased that we got to where we got, and there's just a lot to share about it in general, really.
Yeah. So, backers. We ended up with, I think it was 31?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
So 31 backers we ended with, and we raised, by the end of the campaign, very, very exciting, slightly anxiety-inducing. It's been an adventure. But the final total we came to was just over 1,500, which again, very grateful, very, very happy that we got there in the end.
Now, to break that down, before people say, you made so much money, there is a percentage that Kickstarter will be taking out of that. There is also the fact that 31 people have tracked shipping. So if you kind of change that to at least £5 each for 31, it's like, what is it? Like 150, 160 minimum, because obviously we're not taking in consideration that some of them will be based in the States or will be based in Australia or wherever. So another 150 of those needs to be removed. And that means that even though we have raised a total of 1,500, 1,600 pounds, we'll probably seeing about 1,000 of that amount, and it will require about 2,500 to 3,000 pounds in hand to produce the things that we promised. So that is where all pressure is on me to make money at these next cons. Otherwise, oh no, I cried. It's true though, like people see those amounts and they're like, oh, you made so much money, this is gonna be great. Yeah, sure, Jan.
Literally, yeah. If you insist, fine. And it's something we talked about in our initial, like, how to make a Kickstarter episode. It's just the fact that those costs are not as straightforward as they seem. But on the plus side, like I said, we did get funded, and we do know, and it's done. We know how much we've received. That money's being collected as we speak, and it's all happening. But
money.
As we said again in our How to Make a Kickstarter, you don't finish a Kickstarter and it's done. There's so much more to do. There's this endless list of things to do. And the next one, which is one we have already begun, which is we are now reaching out to our backers to basically say thank you. Here's what's going to happen.
Correct.
So that's done, which is another thing ticked off the list. One thing, which is something I haven't done myself or haven't experienced with, is the surveys. And actually reaching out to people being, right, thank you, you booked, you pledged, we're very grateful. What do you want? How do you want it? What are we doing with it? And do you want anything else?
Yes.
What is that like? What are we doing? Help me understand. What's the next step?
So the difficult part with Kickstarter, obviously, is getting the general public, the people out there, to try and give you money in order to create something that you're passionate about, right? However, when you have those backers, there is nope. Rewind, rewinding all that. I'm answering a different question. So the yes. Now that people have backed to our campaign, we obviously need information of where to send them the wonderful things that they have pledged for. And that comes in a form of a survey where we ask things like address, shipping information, so on and so forth. And obviously, they will have to wait for the production time to happen. They will have to wait for Kickstarter to send us money first, then do production, then we quality check all the pins and ultimately send them the product that they backed. However, it is important to make sure that the details on the survey are correct. I did have a couple of instances where people auto-filled those forms, and then after I send the package, they're like, oh, I no longer live there. I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, that sucks for you. What do you want me to do? So always double check the information that you put in when it comes to paying for your pledge, and double checking that your rewards are going to the correct address. Also, what is really important is that when you're making a Kickstarter campaign, you are opening yourself to all the people out there, hoping that they can come together and help you fund something that you're passionate about. However, now we already have those people. They are filling in a survey, and that is the perfect time to make an add-on store. An add-on store allows them to buy more pins, more stickers, more badge buttons, more postcards, more prints, more t-shirts, more sweaters that are both related to what you sold, right? So let's say you, Jamie, let's say you, Jay, backed a beanie hat for the Shadow Black beanie hat, but you also wanted a rouge pin. That was not a combination that was pledged for, because you could either get pins or you could get a beanie hat. Mm. However, once you're filling in the survey, you go through the add-on shop and you can add a rouge pin, a rouge badge button, whatever else you would like. I tend to add not only the things that are in the Kickstarter at the top, but at the bottom put in the majority of the best-selling things in my shop. Because someone who had only come across my Kickstarter and never seen my work before, or someone that always wanted to get that extra t-shirt or that extra pin, but they could never justify the shipping before, but now they're already paying for the shipping, so might as well snag it now. It is a great time to try and upsell things to people who are already supporting you. And I generally find that you make a fair bit of money back from that. Obviously, the more people, the better. In our case, we have 31, but it's still something. Even if one person gets one extra beanie hat, it will make a big difference for us.
Yes. Yeah. So, surveys, we're setting those up. That's going to happen. Yes. That's good. Yes. How long do we actually have to wait for the Kickstarter funds to actually come in?
So usually they say like 15 business days. So it is somewhere generally between 2 and 3 weeks at most.
Okay.
Right? During those 2 and 3 weeks, as of the day after our campaign ended, they start trying to charge cards. If all the cards are charged and everyone pays, we get the money sooner. Unlikely, but yes. But in those 2 weeks, every other day, they will try and charge the person's card if it hasn't successfully paid already. Obviously, they're not going to multiply charge you. But there are some instances where we have to either reach out to the customer and be like, listen, you backed for this. is there a different card that you would like to try? Would you like to pay through the backer kit system, the survey system instead, to give you just a little bit more time? Which does happen sometimes, even though you pay Kickstarter at the end of the campaign. At the end of the campaign doesn't necessarily mean it's a payday, right?
Yeah.
So instead, you transfer that to the survey, and they can pay before filling the survey, right? But yeah, we will be getting that money in about 2.5 weeks' time, which will be like the second week of March, or towards the middle of March, and that is when we will be going ahead with production of the pins.
Awesome. And what are the first steps of the production?
I, so far, have already reached out to the manufacturer. I know exactly how much it's going to cost. We were quite lucky with this one, where I am working with someone new, but someone who has worked with quite a few pin artists here in the UK, because of seeing their portfolio, who they worked with. And the results are absolutely exquisite. I made sure that I knew that they could deliver the kind of pastel colors and the details that I am after. And they aren't expecting a fortune in money. In fact, they were quite reasonable with all the terms that I asked for. I am very picky. So only because I have the experience with it and I know what to expect.
You know what to need, yeah.
Yes. So now we are at a point where they are literally just waiting for the payment to come in before they can start double checking the vector art for our pins, and they'll send us the proofs. We will double check those proofs, see that everything is right, and then it's like 3 weeks, I think, that they said we will need to have the pins, which is wild to me. 1,000
I was going to
pins,
say, because what's the expected timeline from like the initial production's fulfillment, and potentially, roadblocks aside, this will be a reasonable turnaround.
Yes, I think it will take about a month and a half in total. Fingers crossed, we might have them in hand for MCM London in May.
That would be so good. It would
be super good. It would be super good. Yes.
So we've done a Kickstarter. We've done our first Kickstarter as a collaboration, and all the highs and lows of watching it come together. I guess the question needs to be asked. Now we're on the other side of it in terms of the actual campaign. How did our expectations compare to what actually came to fruition?
So I would say that after running multiple campaigns, I think I may have expected a bit too much out of my audience that are so supportive in backing my girly looking cat girls that I have worked on for so many years now. When I did my princess pins, when I did my villains pins, when I did my anime inspired magical girls and so on, I had this resounding community behind every project. And I assumed that this project would cater for them, because I tried to make these Sonic pins as soft and fluffy and gentle and cute and soft and fluffy and gentle as possible. You get what I mean? I really did my best to take the designs that are canon and try and make them as me as possible. I tried to cubify the Sonic universe, if that makes sense. However, it is not the same audience. The people who buy the princesses aren't necessarily interested in hedgehogs. The people who love magical girls aren't necessarily interested in buying hedgehogs. And out of 2,573, I think, people who have previously backed my campaign, 3 of them repledged. And over 80% of them looked at the campaign. So it was a bit of a kick in the gut, I would say, without being too dramatic.
Yeah.
I will also say, and I apologize sincerely to you and to the lovely community, I will say my biggest disappointment with this campaign was seeing how the Sonic community that is so strong and so uplifting at conventions were not at all interested even in sharing about our project.
Yes.
Because it was a fan project, and we got some pretty messed up comments when we posted in certain social media circles as well about how the designs looked, about them having absolutely no knowledge what fan art is or the convention scene is or so on and so forth. I will say, and I don't say this lightly, very disappointed with the Sonic community about this. Because they showed a whole lot of ignorance.
I would agree. And I think for a community that has such a deep just existence within fan art, like the Sonic fan art community is insane. Fan projects, fan games, just there's such a huge world of Sonic fans who make stuff for this franchise they love. I was personally very disappointed by some of the responses we got, who seemed to either intentionally or just naively misunderstand what we were doing and the context of what we do. And was not the best.
Keep in mind that I have absolutely no qualm about the fact that the designs maybe weren't for everyone. I am not saying that I made a must-buy, you know what I mean? But there were certain specific comments about, I don't know if I'm willing to share this because it's a fan-made thing, when it's people who are at cons. Like, you know better. And if you don't, then I think you're missing a massive chunk of what your community is about. And that is kind of sad for you. I'm sad for you that you know these games, but you don't understand what the fan community is like. The people who are at conventions, who I have managed to connect with over the last 5 months of being in the Sonic community as a convention artist, they did their best. They shared our posts. They pledged.
They were so good.
They sent messages asking about, where are we with the hat? Is the hat happening? There's enthusiasm, and that is what kept us going in this instance. But the amount of people, specifically who have a Sonic platform, who were like, not official, not going to do that.
Yeah.
I see you.
I see you.
The tables will turn one day, and you will need something, and I will be like, I don't know, maybe.
Yes. Yes.
I'm petty, bitch.
Notes have been taken.
Screenshot the receipt. Too funny.
So I think, an interesting experience. I think there's numerous factors about timing and when we launched and all this sort of stuff that I think all came together. I think the fact that despite any obstacles we had, that we managed to get it funded and get a reasonable amount above our initial goal is still something to be applauded. And I think this is a testament to just the quality of work, and people do recognise that. So I'm pleased. I'm pleased that they're going to be a reality.
I think so as well. I think there's going to be a lot of love for them, especially at SonicCon, especially at in-person events like MCM. I think they are going to be doing very well. I have no doubt. And I wouldn't be saying I'm going to be spending my own money to be funding these things if I didn't believe that in person they would do well. I think the community that will buy them did receive them well. Maybe I have been asked, do I think that the SonicCon UK Kickstarter happening at the same time might have hurt it? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. At the end of the day, people have only so much money in a month to be able to spend. So it could be. However, I am going to take this opportunity to say wow to Raku Events. They managed to get just a little bit over £48,000 for SonicCon UK in
good.
London. I am super excited, and I have absolutely no regret. Down on paper, now receipt, stamp it, screenshot it, clip it. I have no regret having collaborated with them and ran the campaign alongside them, because they are fantastic people, and would do again. Yes.
So yes, it's done. We're there. We're in the stages of making these things happen, and we're very excited. And it was a Kickstarter for pins, but that's not all we promised. We have, like, obviously on top of the pins, all those wonderful designs, they're being made into stickers and badges as well, which means for all those wonderful designs we have been showing repeatedly to you from a Kickstarter, it means we now have fully shaded versions of those designs as well.
Yes. I haven't fully finished them, but the majority of them are done. I'm only missing doing Silver, Blaze, and Metal Sonic. I'm leaving Metal Sonic for last because I know that he is going to be the one that gives me the biggest headache to shade, because metal. But beyond that, I'm very happy with how soft and nice the rest of them turned out. I wanted to take some badge buttons of them with me to PowerCon. Not happening. I'm not putting myself through that stress of pressing buttons last minute. But again, buttons and stickers will be available at the end of the month at MegaCon Birmingham.
So we've done it.
That's it.
Kickstarter's done. Yay, it's done. I say done. There's so much more to do. But the campaign's done.
I would say potentially Kickstarter is done. As in, I don't think I will be running another campaign using the Kickstarter platform, which this would be my 18th campaign. And I think based on how things have panned out this time, I think I am happy trying new platforms going forward. So please watch this space, because we will be exploring new things, new platforms, and new ways how to fund pins. I think Kickstarter might have ran its course, but maybe it's just me.
I would say it's a trend I've noticed in the artist community about trying different platforms. So I think a lot of them are trying out different options this year. So it'll be interesting to see if there's one area that everyone seems to think is a good path forward. I guess now that that chapter's done, what feels like a large chapter, this is that Kickstarter, we should take a little break and then talk about something that brings us a bit of joy.
Yes.
Maybe some hyperfixations. Let's do that.
Much joy. Let's go.
Let's go, go, go. And we're back. It's our final segment, one of my favourite segments. It's time for our weekly hyperfixation. The camera chases Jill all around the room. Hyperfixation time, where we talk about things that we have just been obsessing over, has been in our brain almost every day. And I have a sneaking suspicion what this one is for this week. What could it be? What could it be, PB? What could it be?
Since maybe July of last year, I hadn't played any games. I hadn't played any video games for a very long time. And we recently, due to a conversation we saw on our Discord server, we saw that the guys were getting into this new game called Evowed. And I watched the trailer. The initial trailer, the opening sequence, was very interesting and a lot of fun. So I was like, you know what? An hour or two before bed doesn't hurt. For people who have self-control and don't stay up every day till 4 something in the morning. I don't know. Has it been a week?
Yes.
It has. A very long week. But I finished it last night. And it was definitely what was on my mind when I was working. Like, I need to finish because I want to play more. And yeah, I'm quite happy with it. Not to turn this into a game review, but I am going to turn this into a game review. It wasn't what I expected in the beginning. I think the opening sequence with that cute little creature that falls off the thing, and you were like, oh, I hope nothing happens to him. You hadn't finished the sentence, he literally died. And I think that set me up into thinking that this would be a showstopper game. And then I think after the first 2 hours, we were like, this feels like either an unfinished game or in beta or belonged in gaming catalog of about 6 years ago. And I think gaming has moved a lot further when it comes to RPGs since then. Very spoiled from being a Baldur's Gate massive enthusiast. I don't expect every game to be Baldur's Gate. However, I do expect certain things at this point in RPGs, like the option of when you make multiple choice thing actually affect it, other than like big cataclysmic events, you know, or romancing characters, you know, and I had the same armor literally from the mid first area until the end. My character never changed. And sure, it was cute that I can like use different transmogs for it, I guess, if it was a piece that I already had. Meh.
So, unsurprisingly, based on my reactions so far, you may be surprised to hear that this is also my hyperfixation, because I was there watching him play the whole thing, and I like watching RPGs. I think good because of storytelling, and as someone who's not playing, storytelling is kind of important. And this story really petered out towards the end. There were a lot of things that very charming about the game, whether intentionally or not. The voice acting was very all over the place sometimes. I feel like they had a voice acting crew of 5 people to do every European accent that's ever existed.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
It is an injustice.
Injustice. Amazing.
There were... Yes. So I thank Evowed for giving me a variety of quotes I will use forevermore, which will have no context to most people I speak to. That was very fun. And at times, especially when you're stood still just looking at the landscape, it can be a very pretty game. I think sometimes emotion. I think what you said about that game feeling like it should have come out like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think like 5 years ago, this would have been like, this is the bar. Bar has moved up. So
it has.
I think
things have
didn't
changed.
Quite match it. And I think the best way to summarize my experience with my hyperfixation of that game was towards the end of it, it was very much a case of like, no, we're getting to the end now. Just get on with it. Like, we're going to get through it and we're going to see it to the end. And when it was done, it was a huge sigh of relief.
Yes. I think the epilogue and the very last of it was nice. I don't want to like spoil anything, but the last area, the last area, if you get what I mean, if we had the time to talk to all the NPCs and everything, it would have been nice to be like, oh, you know, they're back.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything, but I don't want to say anything while saying everything. That is nice if you have the energy for it, but I do feel like the energy had been drained out of my will to play the game by then.
Yeah.
And
I think, perfectly lovely game.
I do love that this is our hyperfixation while simultaneously we're like, meh.
It was
hyperfixation doesn't need to be something that you're
it was something that I was so at times being like so over it, but at the same time being like, but we need to finish. We are fixated. It needs to be done. This is the hyperfixation. We will get this done, and we got it done. God damn it.
We did.
So it's good. Are you ready to choose it or lose it.
Yes, before the sun goes down.
Yes.
I'm slowly becoming darker and darker.
Right, choose it
Go
or
on.
lose it.
Yes.
This is an interesting one. I'm curious what your response is, because, good sir, you are on the edge of a cliff with a Lotso hugging bear, and you are
emotional
faced.
support.
This time, rather than having things on either side, you have a selection of things in front of you.
Yes, okay.
So, right in front of your feet is every design you have done for the Sonic Enamel Pin Kickstarter. Every character you have drawn. However, you can only keep one. The rest are going off the cliff to sit with the has-been merch and the Pepperamis. They're going to sit there.
Are we talking pins or t-shirts as well?
We're going to say all the pin designs. Okay, so... And that, I guess that would mean, if it's the pin design, it means if you get rid of it, you can't make stickers or shaded versions of them either. It's that specific character. So, of all the characters that you have done for this Kickstarter, which one are you going to choose to keep? Good stuff.
So, I would say this was a very difficult campaign for me to design. I've mentioned this before. So stylized, so unique. Kudos to Sega designer people. You've created something that is so niche and so personal. And you've created a movement of artists who all draw in that particular style. I tried to stylize it. It's very difficult to marry two things together when it's so unique and different. Out of all the designs, there are definitely ones that I have as favorites versus others that I wish I could have done better. Doesn't mean that I don't like the designs, but I wish I could have done better. Notably, Blaze is one of them. I think I didn't do Blaze justice compared to how much I wish I did. Probably because it's the cat character and I've made so many cat designs that I wish I was happier with Blaze. But I'm still proud of the design, right? At the end of all of it, the one design I would save, because it is the design I like the most, is Amy Rose.
Amy Rose?
Which you should know how surprising that would be.
I am surprised.
Right? Because obviously my favorite characters are the more emo... the more emo-oriented characters. Yes. Shadow, Knuckles, and Werehog. But there's something so charming about the Amy Rose design. It just gives me the energy of the character perfectly. And I'm super proud with how she turned out.
That's awesome. I'm genuinely also surprised pink. With that answer. Also pink. There you go. There's a true answer behind that. So, all the rest in the bin, off the edge of the cliff. Sorry if you like those designs. Gilles has spoken.
They're all gone.
But a good choice. One that took me by surprise, which we love. That's why we love this segment. Yeah. But on that note, it means we've come to the end. That's it. That's our 10th episode. We've covered a lot today. We've covered so much.
We have.
Past cons, next cons, Kickstarters. If you're listening on the day this comes out, don't forget you can go to PowerCon, like now. Just turn up, say hello, buy things, have a great time. Hope you have a great time.
Come and tell me what you think about the podcast.
Yes. And if it's just nice things. Say nice things.
Tell me how bad Jamie performed at Animangapop.
Just don't tell Jamie. That would be great. No. If you want to come, if you listen to the podcast, do come say hello to Gilles, who will be there. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. And again, just thank you for listening. If you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, there's a like button, there's a review button. You're going to click it. You're going to rate 5 stars, thumbs up, subscribe. Do all the things that mean you're engaging with this podcast. Because, trust me, if there's anything you can do, that helps so much. If you love the podcast so much, you can go to theconcreatives.com, where not only can you find all our socials, you can also find our shop. We have a variety of fun things. You want a keyring? We've got it. You want a sweatshirt? We've got it. Just have a look. Badge buttons, we've got all the awesome stuff. Exactly. The coolest keyring you've ever seen. So if you want to be part of the gang and rep the podcast, then do pick one up, being displayed by model. And as you can see, very durable when being thrown around. Not a scratch on it, I'm sure.
No.
So yeah, do check out that. And next episode, I guess we'll be discussing PowerCon, how it went. How was this new / not new event? And how did it go? I can't wait.
It better be good. It better be good.
See.
Or
Tune
you'll
in next
hear
time to
about
find
all
out.
the drama.
You're either going to be tuning in to a very celebratory episode, or you're going to be listening to an episode with all the tea is spilled. So either way, it's going to be a good one. Until then, have a great week, and we will see you then.
Bye!